introduces Wheels.
Hello, welcome again to Wheels for what sadly is the last in this, the 6th series. We've tried some different sports throughout the summer. We've also enjoyed some of the old favourites, of course, but tonight we bow out in a blaze of glorious sunshine with yet another newcomer to the series. It's the sport which has taken the leisure industry by storm. That's to say, the sport of mountain bike racing, staged here in the impressive setting of Knebworth Park in Hertfordshire.
Knebworth House, originally a Tudor manor, transformed 150 years ago by the Victorian romantic novelist Edward Bulwer Lytton. Knebworth, mentioned in the Domesday Book, the main feature of a 250-acre estate, now the family home of Lord and Lady Cobbold. Just the place for a drop of mountain bike racing? Why not? If Knebworth is good enough for Pink Floyd, the Rolling Stones, Genesis and Queen, all of whom have appeared here and rocked the eaves, why not the mountain bike folk, who are much more capable of enjoying the open spaces of the park? The sport, which began in California and now has 3 to 4 million devotees in this country, not all of them willing to go round and round Knebworth for little reward, but enough to create a professional element already, without losing the fun factor. This was a 2-day affair, a couple of races on the Saturday to sort out who was here just for the ride. Then things got a bit tougher, just the way the Tudors would have liked it. They enjoyed a bit of licensed aggro.
John, they tell me, like so many things, this all started in the States.
That's right. It started about 15 years ago in Marin County, Northern California, when a group of reprobate ex-hippies took some Schwinn cruiser bikes, which are fat-tired, single-speed bicycles, and stuck road gears on them and started going up and down the Californian hills. Since then, it's turned into probably the fastest-growing sport in cycling.
So what exactly is a mountain bike? How does it differ to a normal bike, for instance?
Well, a normal road bike has 27-inch wheels with skinny tyres on them with very, very low road rolling resistance. And a mountain bike has the much fatter and slightly smaller 26-inch wheels, which gives you the suspension that you need for riding off-road. The pro riders that will be racing here today, their bikes will be worth at least £1,000, some of them even up to $2,000 or $3,000. You can pay up to £400 just for a pair of front suspension forks for mountain bikes these days, so it can be a very expensive sport.
Right then, on with the action. Mountain bikers, of course, pride themselves on the fact that absolutely anyone can have a go, from beginners, the novices, to the experts and professionals. It's for young and old, men and women. Just turn up with your bike and away you go. There are, of course, several classes to cater for the various standards. The format here at Knebworth, 2 qualifying races before the final. First to go, the sports classes, all amateurs here, split into 2 races for men and women. The occasional sidecar making an appearance as well. And an early example of the dangers of the sport if you get it wrong. Now this is number 401 in pink, Danielle O'Reilly from Stockport, cruising to victory in the heats. She's one of the favourites to do well in the ladies section. And this men's heat was won by number 220, Ian Lambert. He's in the yellow jersey from Newport Pagnell. This, in fact, his first victory in a major race. That puts him through to the final, where he'll be up against some of the top riders in the business.
Out of all the races I've ever done, this is definitely the best result of all the class I've run. Right, that's good. It was hard yesterday, but it's good today, the way they shortened the course. Yesterday they got a big climb at the back there, whereas the road racers like to catch you up on the climb. You can gain it back on the technical sections, but this is all like technical, so flew round.
In the next heat, it was the turn of the experts. Professional riders here, among them the Coltman brothers, Glenn and Gary, who soon broke away from the rest of the field. We join them now on the last lap. Gary well out in front. Commentator is Phil Liggett.
And Coltman, he's at home, on the road, on the grass or on the track. He really is a true all-round bike rider. Ripping through the streets of Cambridge not very long ago at the beginning of our Wheels programmes in the Scottish Providence City Centre race there. Since then, he's won himself a hatful of medals in the British National Track Championships. In fact, he won a medal in every event he took part in, from gold through to bronze. And now he's doing the third type of discipline in the sport of cycling, and that's riding the mountain bike. What a versatile ride. He's had a little tussle, in fact, with his brother, Glenn Coltman, but he's only got rid of him in the last couple of minutes, and I think Glenn must have had a problem in one of the bomb holes. He must have gone down because he's gone completely out of sight and given brother Gary here a nice cruise on this final lap. And there's a little problem out on the course too. That's number 2 on 4, and that's Daryl Hannah, who's gone down. And the thing about mountain bike racing is nobody is allowed to help you at all. That means instant disqualification. Even if you have a flat tire, you've got to get on with it, repair it and carry on. And it takes about 2.5 minutes to change a flat. Although, quite honestly, on this course here today, we shouldn't see too many of those. So Coltman now coming out of the zigzags and will be up towards the finishing line. He's made this a very, very nice ride and saved plenty of energy for the big final later on. And Coltman moving over to America at the end of this month. A little bit of competition over there. And there is the second rider going through, Paul Hinton. Well, I can hear the commentator here in Knebworth saying something about the challenge there, but I haven't seen Glenn Coltman at all, as Gary comes home, a very easy winner of his heat and through to the final, and quite clearly now the man to beat here today.
Well, Gary, we meet again. We first met at Cambridge right at the start of the series. You're a busy man.
Yeah, it's been busy since Cambridge. We went to Ireland for a week, and then I've been in Scotland. I had the National Track Championships in Leicester, and then the Kellogg's Tour, and then the Scottish Provident finished the events off in Scotland last week. So I've had a bit of a rest this week, and then over here now.
And we should mention that you won the sprints in that series.
I did, yeah, so I was quite pleased about that. It's a good result for me.
Okay, time now for our feature race, the Knebworth 91 Mountain Bike Grand Prix. 70 starters in all, some a touch more serious than others. So what are all the horns about, if it's not a silly question?
Well, really, it's just a bit of a gimmick to get noticed on the course. Raise a bit of attention and have fun.
And a bit of team riding here. I mean, we've got 3 or 4 of you with the horns in place.
Oh yeah, we all ride as a team. We go out there to have some fun, get noticed.
And you are strictly amateur, of course. Any chance of giving the professionals a hard time?
Oh, we always give them a hard time.
You probably noticed me leading the professionals on the first lap of the qualifier.
They tell me you don't have to be mad, but it helps. Is that true?
That's absolutely correct.
Why is that?
Well, just downhill sections, jumps and things. You know, if you want to impress the crowd, you have to take your brain out before the race and just go for it.
And these boys with the old horns on, the mad cows, do they give you a bit of stick on the way around?
They're just sort of an inspiration to me. You know, I mean, if you let them catch up to you, they'll just get you in the back with the horns. It's no good for you. You know, I mean, no good for morale. So you keep away from them.
What about some of these boys around you? They a little bit dubious, to say the least. Are they going to give you any problems?
Well, we set off a minute behind them, so they should be out of the way, but hopefully we shouldn't get entangled with them.
So away we go then. There are 60 men. They'll be riding over 16 laps. That's just over 20 miles, and it's 10 laps for the women. John Dite has joined Phil Liggett in the commentary box.
Okay, on we go. So there's a nice tight line. The women starting 1 minute behind the men, and the men are away, and John Dite alongside me here. John, obviously the start is pretty crucial for the top pros.
Oh, definitely, Phil. It's very important to get a good position as they come through to the first of the bomb holes here this afternoon.
Good straight start, and it narrows down considerably now as they head into those straw bales. Then will come the first obstacle. They'll flick sharp right, and that will take them down the first of 3 very steep drops. We're calling them bomb holes, and that really is what they look like. And it looks to me, John, as though one of the mad cows has made his traditional fast start there.
Yeah, well, the mad cow was the first leader out of the last qualifying race that we had in this afternoon.
But he paid for it later, of course.
Sorry?
He paid for it later.
Oh, he certainly did.
And the pond there has been drying out these last couple of days here at Knebworth, where there was heat yesterday as well. So as the men are through the first of 3 bomb craters, here's the girls going off, and in fact there are 10 of them. And Danielle on the left of our picture, nearest camera in the pink, making her start. Standing on the edge of these craters this morning, and you're looking down into the bottom. It takes a little bit of courage to swoop in and out, and keep the momentum to bring you clean over the top with hardly getting out of the saddle here.
That's
the professional
right,
riders, John, will want to rather keep away from the rest of the race, I would think.
Yes, it's important at this point not to get stuck in a bunch as you go through those bomb holes. The trick is to hang off the back of the saddle as you go down, changing gear so that you're in a slightly lower gear to get out the other side.
Well, because Coltman went so quick in that first round, and here's Coltman again now on the left of our picture. And the rider who's getting mixed up there is Graham Pentney from Enfield. He's the mad cow rider who's here for the fun, he says. But he really does give Coltman a run for his money, especially in these opening laps. But I think Coltman will wear him down a little bit. So Gary Coltman in the lead, Glenn Coltman up into third place. Going through the BMX section of the course here, you see how the corners that are banked. Well, this was the former BMX track here at Knebworth. They've got a much nicer one now, built near the Barnes restaurant area. And if you've never been to Knebworth, you should take time out and pay it a visit, because it is a magnificent place here. The gardens, the parks, and of course the vast meadowland here. And on a day like this, well, it is absolute paradise for the mountain bikers. This, I suppose, is a little bit unusual for them, John, because the course is a little bit shorter than most for mountain bikers.
That's right, Phil. This is a particularly short course here this afternoon, obviously to fit it inside the grounds at Knebworth and to accommodate the BMX track here. But it's a very, very exciting course for spectators and for riders alike. Certainly just as much fun as the normal longer rides that you have.
So Graham Pentney still hanging on there, just about, looks over his shoulder and finds that in fact Gary Coltman has come through, but in second place now is brother Glenn. And just before the start today, we asked Glenn just how important it is to get a good start.
Fairly important to be in the top 3-4. They're the guys you want to be with. You don't want to be behind too many people who are going to fall off. Not you.
It's a long race, isn't it? A long, long race in this heat. So how do you go about pacing yourself?
Very difficult on this, because it's too many corners out the corner, and you've got to sprint to stay with the guy, you know, stay on the wheel. So you sort of, your effort's up and down. So it's very difficult to pace yourself, really.
Well, this little group that's now gone away at the end of the first lap, and Gary Coltman, the rally professional, with his teammate Paul Hinton, and Glenn Coltman in second place. And there's one other rider there, John.
Yep, that's Jason McCroy, a relatively new rider to the UK circuit. Jason is famous for his bunny hopping and trial stunts. His personal record for bunny hop is an incredible 36 inches. And he's known as one of the most accident-prone riders on the circuit. Well, very, very exciting rider to watch.
Well, this is a course then for him. And Jason McCroy comes from Washington in County Durham, up in the northeast of England. So he's possibly the most travelled rider, in fact, to the competition today, and he's going to get value for money. Well, for the mountain biker, this is not the normal course, as I said. You know, it's basically flat, 3 bomb craters to go down, a couple of zigzags, and it is very, very difficult indeed. Oh, dear me, and there's a problem too down there for number 16, and that's Pete Davis from Epping, one of the mad cows in trouble. Glenn Coltman in the lead, Gary Coltman, Paul Hinton and Jason McCroy, they're the top 4, and they're building themselves quite a lead. 2 laps completed.
That's correct, Phil. It's going to be interesting to see when one of these riders is going to make a break off the front here. I expect we'll see them going around together for the first few laps.
Is the leading lady, and no surprise here. She's come all the way from Stockport. She's having a little bit of struggle at the moment, but Danielle Riley is building herself quite a lead. Well, she's not a very experienced mountain biker, but she's found herself a nice bike. She works in a bicycle shop in Manchester, and I guess that means, John, she probably got the bike a little bit cheaper, but I can tell you that bike she rides is worth well in excess of £1,000.
Well, it's pretty expensive. I'm not sure if it's worth exactly that much, Phil, but I think she did get a little bit of a deal on that bicycle, as a lot of employees of bicycle shops do, getting coverage as they race in races such as this.
And just going past there, she's passing novice David Wright from Leighton Buzzard. And so there's Danielle showing David how it should be done. And meanwhile, back with the men out front, back into the bomb craters. We've given all these craters names, by the way, over these last couple of days. We start off with the pond leap, because there's a little pond in the middle of it. Then we go through the air jump, and that should speak for itself. And then we're on to the third and final bomb hole and into the woods. They're heading out towards the woods now. Well, already this field is spread out. Just caught sight there of Anita Hinton. No relation to Paul Hinton, by the way. Anita is from Thetford. Paul Hinton is from Auckland in New Zealand. And he came over here and he started out doing messenger deliveries around the streets of London on a mountain bike, of course, as so often we see them these days. And he took up racing and found he was rather good at it. And he turned professional for rally cycles very, very quickly. So he's in 4th place, just out of our picture at the moment. There's Paul now, just tucking his nose in. And Hinton settling down this year as one of the top mountain bike professionals. I wonder if he still does his delivery round in the streets of London as well.
Well, I'm afraid he's a full-time professional mountain biker now, Phil. He's been riding for 2 years on a semi-professional basis for rally. Still doing some touring in London in between races, but he's been taken on full-time along with Barry Clark, who isn't here today. Unfortunately, he's running a road race. But what is interesting here is that Gary is off the back of this field here. I wonder if he's feeling the heat a little bit here this afternoon, or whether he's just taking it easy, Phil.
Well, I know, talking to Gary Coltman in the heats, after the heats were over, the reason he went so fast on the opening round was simply because Graham Pentney annoyed him, because he said a rider that comes alongside him with horns in his helmet and he's a professional, he said it can't be true, and he got so annoyed with him on the opening lap he went too quick for him and got rid of him, and that accounted for a very fast start. As a result of the fast time of the heat, the organisers here, instead of having 10 laps for the men, upped it to 16 laps to get the distance in. And so Gary's paid the price there. He went too fast in the heats. And he's riding it much more sensibly now because of the longer distance to come. And one of the riders impressing without a doubt is Jason McCroy from Washington in County Durham. He's the only amateur amongst these three professionals here. And he's now not only... I thought he was hanging on earlier, John, but right now he's setting the pace.
Yeah, I think the other 3 riders are probably letting him lead a little bit there.
Now, drinks on the move, John, is that allowed?
Yeah, you're allowed to feed riders in a mountain bike race. You're not actually allowed to have any technical support. The idea is that if you were out mountain bike racing in the wilds, you wouldn't have a team support vehicle like you would on a road race. So since the beginning of the sport, there's been very, very little technical support ever allowed. Once or twice they've allowed it in certain races, but as the general rule, there's absolutely no technical support. So if you have a puncture or your chain breaks or your cable snaps or whatever, you have to either repair it there on your own, or you've really had it. A few times we've had riders in the past where they have broken saddles and that kind of thing.
Well, as we spoke about the technical problems, there's no problems here for Coltman, because Gary Coltman has decided to try and stretch Jason McCroy, and he's waited till he was at the front, he's jumped him, and he's left McCroy. Well, Hinton is not going to chase him down because, of course, his teammate, I'm not too sure where Glenn Coltman's loyalties would lie. And there's Paul Hinton. He's feeling the heat for sure, not looking anything like as cool and collected as Gary Coltman was. And they're back in the group here, so they're all together. In fact, it wasn't Coltman that went, it was Hinton that went away there.
It was there, Phil. We obviously had a rear view there, and assuming that Gary was going to make an early break.
Yeah.
But the others are back with him now, so that wasn't particularly successful.
A nice little loosener, perhaps, to try to get rid of this amateur rider, Jason McCroy, and that may be why Hinton's put in an early spurt to try and make McCroy chase. And the evidence came there that the other 2 professionals didn't help McCroy close the gap, which he had to do, otherwise Hinton would have been gone, possibly for the rest of this race.
Oh, and it's Coltman.
This is exactly what you were saying earlier. Now, earlier on, everybody felt nobody would have a puncture on this course because it's only a grass surface, but look at this now. And Gary Coltman, the outstanding favourite of the day. Now, what would you estimate? 2.5, 3 minutes?
Yeah, he's got to get this down to less than 3 minutes. This is only an hour-long race at the absolute maximum, and this is a real shocker here this afternoon. We did not expect this to happen at all. He has to get that puncture changed extremely quickly, and it's going to be interesting to see whether his brother Glenn and Paul Hinton, his teammate, are going to try and put some time into him here. They could try and take advantage and get out of the way. But what do you think, Phil?
Well, we're now getting a case 2 where the 3 leaders are now picking up the riders. We're into our 3rd lap, and we've got riders being lapped here now by the 2 professionals and the amateur. This will be something of a relief, I would think, for Jason McCroy, that he's seen the outstanding favourite of the day go, and that is Gary Coltman. But if Coltman takes about 2.5 minutes to change that time, we're also lapping Danielle Riley here, the leading lady. There she is. She expected to be mingling with the men, and threw on it in just over 2 3/4 laps of the course. But you know, I think we'll be in for a treat now, because Gary Coltman will change that tyre in 2.5 to 3 minutes. That will put him almost a lap behind, and whether he can get back to the top 3 has to be questionable. But my goodness me, And he's still out there, look, John. He's at the stage now where the tyre is almost back on. I would say he's about 20 seconds away, maybe, from putting that white bike back in the frame.
Well, that's right, Phil, and I think this is going to be a particularly exciting race from here on in, with the favourite now, Gary, has to make up an awful lot of time, and he'll be pushing it as hard as he can. I wonder just how much Paul and Glenn are going to try and get away from him at this point.
Well, Glenn, you know, will take the chance to win, I'm sure of that. Hinton doesn't appear to be driving it too hard. I think he'd like to see Coltman get back in, but of course there's Coltman now. Wheel is now in. He's very, very unlucky, of course, and it had to be the back wheel that punctured. It's the most difficult to repair and take out of the frame. It's worth perhaps another 20 seconds on the time. But we're seeing here ample description of the art of mountain bike riding. You simply have to do it all by yourself. If anybody had attempted there to help Coltman, then he would have been disqualified.
That's right, Phil. I wonder how many bicycle mechanics can change an inner tube in that kind of a time. It takes an awful lot of practice.
Yeah, indeed it does. I've seen them by the roadside in my life. Well, we've timed him officially at 2.5 minutes. Exactly what we thought, John. That was excellent. So there we see Coltman and the amateur rider in the lead, Jason McCroy, followed by Glenn Coltman, surprisingly, and not Gary, who's out and chasing at the moment with a puncture. The question is, though, will he get back to the action? My feeling is he won't be far off it. We'll take a short break.
Do-It-All's great autumn sale is now on. The things that are coming down. It's down at Do-It-All. Why aren't you?
Packed already?
Early start tomorrow, dear.
You can't possibly wear that old thing. You must buy a new one.
You're right. Menswear. Menswear. Unisex. 30 years ago, perhaps. Fortin's traditional. That's more like it. Hello. Good. I've caught you. I'm looking for a Panama, size 7. You have? Marvellous. I see here you open at 8:30. Good. I'll pick it up tomorrow morning on my way to the station.
Panama, size 7. It's 8:45, sir.
Carter hits a magnificent off drive. It's 4 through extra cover. 200 test wickets for Fred Truman.
Another wicket for Underwood with an unplayable delivery.
I love you very much. I love you very much. Hi, Annie. How are you? Oh, good. You're fine. Yes, I'm fine. It's fine. Annie, Bye. Dear Annie, did I say fine? What I meant to say was, I love you.
Living your everyday life means that your clothes have to do the same. Getting to work. Ugh, the traffic. Eating out. Working out. No wonder your clothes pick up grime and smells, and the sort of gritty dirt that gets ingrained. So, you need a detergent that's unbeatable against dirt and odours. Radiant Micro. Every day on everything. Now, that's as clean and fresh as your clothes can get.
Philips Whirlpool at Comet. Fridge freezers, auto washers, dishwashers and tumble dryers now with interest-free credit. So get your skates on. You know where to come.
How did I sell our house so quickly? A little secret. Just before the people came to look round, I brewed up some Dow Egbert's coffee. Lovely aroma. Made the place smell nice and homely. Sweet couple. Couldn't resist. Made an offer on the spot. So, thanks to Dow Egbert's, I got rid of the house. I wonder if it would work on him.
Dow Egbert's. Real coffee, real aroma.
Welcome back to Knebworth. The big question here is, can Gary Coltman recover from that early puncture? Let's find out. Rejoin commentators John Dyte and Phil Liggett.
And he's still the amateur rider in the white there, mingling now with the rest of the back markers here in this race in Knebworth. And trying to get onto him too is Glenn Coltman. Well, he's got Jason McRoy's back wheel luck, but Paul Hinton's having a little bit more of a struggle. He's just off our picture to the left, and you can just see his wheel. There he is. So they're the three, as it was before they lost Gary Coltman with a puncture. We've got to watch on Gary, and we'll see just what a sort of progress he makes. In theory, Coltman should start to pull these boys back, but he's really now going to have to show just what an outstanding pro bike rider he is.
Well, Phil, we should know in about half a lap's time what kind of a lead Jason and Glenn and Paul have on Gary, and we'll see if he can pull them in each lap. I don't think they're going as fast as they possibly could. There could be a bit of team tactics here from Paul.
Well, a long line of riders comes up towards the end now of the 5th lap. And Jason McRoy, who's turning out to be something of a star today here in Knebworth, just snatching a drink there. I don't think it was a sponge, actually. And ignored by Coltman in 2nd place. And it looks like Dave Hemming has come up into this group now.
That's right. Dave, as we said earlier on, was a silver medalist in the World Downhill last year. He's joint leader in the Knebworth Downhill Race Series with another rider who's here today by the name of Daryl Hannah.
Here's Gary Coltman. Let's just have a look back here at Gary, because just look at the difference in speed now. Coltman, who came away from the British National Track Cycling Championships at Leicester a couple of weeks ago. He won a medal in every event he participated in, from gold through silver to bronze. And he has ridden all of the major stage racing in Britain this year as well. Superb rider. But just look at the way he's nipping through the field here. This race, if you have to have a puncture, at least he had it early on, John.
That's right, Phil. He tucked in there with the group towards the end of the race, and he'd had a puncture a couple of laps out to go. He wouldn't have a hope of getting back at all. But I think at this point he's probably still about 2 minutes down, but he really is going like a train here this afternoon. It's going to be exciting to see if he can make it up in the next 10 or so laps.
Well, we timed him at 2.5. He was standing still. He's now using the sort of gears he certainly had no intention of using at this stage of the race until he had that flat tyre. Now he's having to wind a heavy gear up here and find some speed out of this ground. It's very difficult because this ground, it really is extremely bumpy, and the grass is long. It makes a very, very slow surface indeed, and it calls for a very special effort. Look at those thigh muscles on him.
And I can tell you that it is almost exactly 2 minutes now that Gary is behind the leaders, so he's made up 30 seconds already just in one lap.
I don't think Hinton here, at the back of this lead group, will want to contribute too much to this chase, because Coltman is his teammate. They both ride for the Rally Works team. And they're making the amateur rider, Jason McRoy, in the white jersey, do most of the work. And the professionals will not want to be embarrassed by him winning this race, so they're going to try and get him to sell himself out, and then perhaps take him one by one. There's Hinton. Hinton, if anything, having a little bit of trouble holding on to the tail of these 4 riders. So we've got Paul Hinton at the back of these 4 riders. He knows this course very well. This route is unusual for top mountain bikers, there's no doubt about that. It's shorter than most, and it does have its problems, as Paul Hinton explained to us earlier.
Well, on this particular course, we've got a number of bomb holes around the back there. They're actually quite difficult coming in on the corner, just making sure that you don't take it on the front wheel as you land, if you do actually take air. Also the tight corners, a lot of sprinting out of the corners, which sets a lot of energy out.
We've touched briefly on the quality of bicycles that they do use, but I mean, you buy a mountain bike at a dealer, John, you can pay anything from £150 to £2,000 these days.
That's right, Phil. Well, you need to spend, if you're going to ride in off-road in these sort of conditions, you need to spend really about £300 plus. But the professional racers here, their bikes are worth in excess of £1,500, and I've seen bikes used on the American circuit worth well over £3,000 or £4,000.
But obviously, the vast disparity in the prices, but what's the advantage of the more expensive bike?
Basically, what you do is you get less weight by the time you get up to the sort of £1,000 mark. It works out about £100 a pound, roughly, to get weight off the bicycle. And I can just give us a split time now on Gary Coltman as he comes round this lap. 1 minute 37 behind. He's made up another 23 seconds.
Oh, he's
just on
absolutely
that
fine.
next lap. He is. But when he catches up with the main field, it's going to be very fascinating to find out whether he's going to be so tired that they'll be, whether he can keep with them or whether he'll be able to overtake them or not. This is going to be an extremely exciting finish to the race this afternoon.
Well, and there's the leader and the four of them together. Now, what about David Hemming, John? Has he got a chance today?
Well, Dave was telling me that earlier this week he went out for a little bit of a training ride and had to go back after 20 minutes because he didn't feel too good. He's just split up with his girlfriend, unfortunately. But I think this afternoon he may suddenly become back on form. It's funny, sometimes riders can feel a bit rough and then come back surprisingly. And this is really his type of course. It is an extremely good course for Dave. He's a fantastic all-round rider. He won the expert downhill, cross-country and trials event at a race recently at a national level, which for an 18-year-old just shows the kind of form that this guy can have when he's on.
But he is a superb bike handler, and you can see he's so relaxed there. It's bunny hot because once you're off the ground, you're losing time, and he's not in the mood to lose time right now. Well, there we are, back with the leaders. Just to go through them again, Jason McCroy, followed by Paul Hinton, and then by Glenn Coltman, and finally at the back, Dave Hemming. Well, Gary Coltman is the all-round cyclist, and so who better to ask earlier this morning and to ask him what about the tactics over the grass today?
There is actually, yeah, there's very little tactics in mountain biking. I think this course today, you'll see a little bit more tactics because it's a course where riders can stay close to each other. But in some of the bigger courses that we have, where we have up the side of mountains, the riders, you tend to just ride at your own pace and finish where you finish.
So how would you best describe this course? Obviously not too many mountains at that.
No, it's good. I mean, we don't want every course to be going up the sides of mountains because it just favours the best climbers in the country. So it's good to have a slight variation, a few tricky bits around there. It's a lot harder than it looks. It might look flat, but it's a lot harder coming up the finishing straight. It's very hard drag. And I think after an hour in this heat, it's going to sort of start really sapping the energy. So I think it's going to be a good testing course.
And looking at Gary now, he's eating the riders up here as he marches around Knebworth at high speed. And all he's looking for is the sight of these riders here, the four leaders who've been setting the tempo, and I wonder if they know just how much progress Coltman is leading. Hinton's looked across there, and he's done it again too. He's looking for the same colour jersey he's wearing, of course, because the rally team are working together, and Hinton will like to keep these leaders as slow as possible in the hope that Coltman will come back. All the indications are it's only a question of when. So Hinton sets the tempo at the front. Jason McCroy has had a great race so far, holds on there in second place, looking now to well cover his expenses back to Washington County Durham. Here's the man who's trying to get back in contention, and he's up into 5th place now, so he's regained all of the lost ground except the lead itself. And superb piece of riding as he goes through. John?
Only 43 seconds behind now, Phil. We expect him to catch the main group now within the next couple of laps. I think what's going through Paul Hinton's head now is how can he remain in the position with the leading group and allow Gary to catch up, but also leave enough time to break away with Gary. I think the rally team are trying to go for the 1-2 here this afternoon, but Paul's tactics of not taking advantage of Gary's unfortunate puncture could be a bit of a mistake here later on. I'm not sure, but he's given Dave Hemming and Jason McCroy a chance that they would not normally have got against these three professionals.
Well, the two amateurs in white and blue here have enjoyed the last couple of laps because Hinton has been the rider setting the pace. Whether that's to control the speed or to try and shake them, I don't know. But McCroy's gone through now. Hinton quick to spot it, takes his wheel very quickly as we go past the lap rider there. And always a possibility of losing the wheel when you go through on a lapped rider like that, as has happened in fact, because McCroy and Hinton have stolen a march over Hemming and Coltman. Glenn Coltman, by the way, brother Gary still to arrive at the front here, but he's closing in. His gap now is just 30 seconds. He is coming, there's no question of that. It's only a question of how much energy has he used up in getting back up to this race lead. Well, that acceleration by McCroy has been answered by Hinton. A small gap has opened. There's now 2 and 2. And the question is, when will Gary Coltman rejoin the leaders? We'll find out after the break.
You know I'm waiting, just anticipating things I may never possess. But while I'm without them,
Bounty, the taste of paradise.
Have you heard about the new couple at number 7? Got a lovely mortgage. Exactly what they wanted from Norwich and Peterborough Building Society. Happened all too quickly for my liking. They're experts, you know, Norwich and Peterborough.
Hello again, we're approaching the closing stages of the Knebworth 91 Mountain Bike Grand Prix. Still the big question, can Gary Coltman get up with the leaders and mount a serious challenge for victory? Let's find out.
Last time check we had on him, he was 30 seconds back, and here is the leading lady, and I think she's got about 3 laps to go. So Danielle Riley has 3 laps to go in the women's race, and she's still riding clear. She's looking a little bit tired now, but she knows that she's beaten the opposition in these early opening laps. It's a matter now of hanging on and surviving the distance. And the weather today, well, it's an absolute scorcher, and it's going to be pretty unpleasant for the riders as they come towards the end. Call for the skill, in and out the bomb craters. The swoop down is nerve-breaking enough, but you've got to keep the speed to try and get out the top and just keep it going over the top. And it looks like she's being picked up there by the leaders of the men's race as she gets lapped there. Led by Paul Hinton, Jason McCroy, there is Glenn Coltman. And still we are waiting to see if Gary Coltman will join the leaders. This is Hinton and McCroy. They've been doing much of the work for the last 5 or 6 minutes. Coltman having a little bit of trouble getting on. There he is in the green jersey. And David Hemming, I think, is just turning off the back now of Coltman. In fact, Hemming looks as though he's dropped out of the picture altogether, John, at the moment. No, there's Hemming. There he comes. Lost a little bit of ground there, so the distance is beginning to tell. Now, here comes Gary riding through, and look at this. Coltman now up into 3rd place and going like a train. Well, it's almost as if there is a piece of elastic on those 3 riders, and it is closing in for him now as he comes right up behind them. Superb piece of chasing by Coltman, and he's done it. And remember, he's changed his tyre by hand, and he's now a matter of 15 seconds back.
Oh, if that now, Phil. I'm wondering what Dave Hemmings did there. He seemed to pull aside and call other riders through. I'm not sure if he's had a mechanical problem or whether he's just blown up. I know he wasn't feeling well earlier in the year. But,
So he's on. Hemming, in fact, was the rider who waved Coltman through and has dropped away from our picture, so we can only suspect he has now had a problem. That's rather sad for Hemming because he was doing well up here with the leaders, but we still have 4 leaders. It's just the name has changed now because the 4th one back with the leaders sticking around at the back at the moment around the BMX track is Coltman, and he'll be glad to seek the back wheel there of his brother, Glenn Coltman, and try and take a few gasps of fresh air to recover from that chase. And, or did I say he's going to sit and wait? No, he's going to try and go alongside his brother Glenn. But it looks as though, in fact, Glenn is through first and Gary is through just behind him. 4 men in the lead. Well, you know, Glenn is so often just behind brother Gary, but not always, although today Gary was certainly the favourite.
Well, I suppose on paper he should be the favourite, yeah, but you never know in this kind of thing, you know. He might just slip off, and if I see him do that, I'll ride straight over him and go for it.
You love each other, really?
Yeah, we do, really, yeah.
Well, the brothers are now almost the status quo. Back with the leaders. And Hinton working hard to control this young tearaway, Jason McCroy. Do you know anything about him, John?
Well, Jason is basically famous for his downhill and bunny hopping. I made a mistake earlier on, actually, when I said that Darrell Hannah was joint leader with David Hemmings on the downhill circuit. It's actually Jason McCroy who's joint leader at the moment. I said he was the most accident-prone rider on the circuit. I'm afraid I must eat those words now. I'm just flabbergasted to see Jason doing as well as he has here this afternoon. I still fully expect, though, that when Gary has caught his breath, we'll see him and Paul and possibly Glenn take off the front, and I'll be very surprised if Jason will be able to keep them once they actually turn up the pace.
We've got problems here on the edge of one of the bomb craters. This is 214, so this will be Darrell Hannah. He was the rider you were talking about earlier from Oakley. It looks as though he's had enough, and the back tyre is buckled badly. I'm afraid it's unrideable. Back to the action with the pros, who are still finding themselves rather troubled by this boy in white. And it looks to me as though, in fact, we have lost the other Coltman, Glenn. He's disappeared from these three leaders as the screw is being turned yet again by the rally riders, and Gary Coltman is now settling in again in third place. So that's Hinton at the front, McRoy in second place, Gary Coltman in third, and the green jersey of Glenn appears to have gone away from the picture. I think that's rather sad. Oh, there he is. He's just off the tail of the pace. So he's running about 6 seconds, I would say, behind these three leaders. And still, there he is now in fourth place, Glenn Coltman. It looks as though the distance has told a little bit now. Well, last time I saw Glenn, he was riding along the road just outside Nottingham, trying to keep up with the Kellogg's Professional Tour of Britain on its way to Lincoln. And he's tailed off a little bit now.
I'm not sure, Phil, whether he had a slight problem there in one of the trickier parts or not.
So there's an attack immediately here, and the attack has gone by Hinton again. So this is twice now that Hinton has done this. He's seen his teammate safely back up to the leaders group, and then he's gone again. He looks over his shoulder to see the gap. The gap is most certainly there. This will be a surprise now. Gary Coltman really is helpless to counter the move at the minute, because in loyalty to his teammate, he'll allow him his head.
And I'm sure that Gary is confident. He knows his teammate very well, and I'm sure he knows how he can pace himself against Paul. He may allow him to get a little bit ahead, but if Gary is determined to take this race, as we've seen, he's been certainly determined enough to make up 2.5 minutes, and I'm sure he'll be trying to catch Paul very shortly, but at the moment just trying to drop away Jason.
Looking at the second and third place in the men, Hinton out in front, and Gary Coltman still having a problem with Jason McRoy from Washington in County Durham. And it looks as though Coltman is going to have to persevere here and decide his moment, because he's tired from that chase. He may not have the acceleration he would have liked at this stage of the race, and the rally boys have worked this well. Hinton was certainly not to be the expected winner today, especially after what he said at the start of this race. He was tired, very much so, from a marathon mountain bike race. 6 different stages in a 2-day mountain bike race in Wales last weekend, a total of 100 miles. So let's go and have a look and see where Hinton is. There he is. And now settling into his own rhythm. He's broken the elastic, he's gone clear. And you might even expect Coltman to pick him up, you know, you never know. But he won't bring back the man in white, that's for sure. The professional now has put the man out in front. The team has got their man in the lead, and that is what they want. And it looks at last they may have cracked Jason McRoy, because there is Gary Coltman. He waited till he came out of the zigzags off the BMX course, and now he's giving him a big effort. So he allowed John just about a lap to recover from the chase, and now he's after his teammate.
That's right. Well, he knew he probably couldn't take Jason in the BMX area, because that's what Jason's really good at. But he's only 11 seconds now behind Paul Hinton, and he's already pulled up 7 or 8 seconds from Jason McRoy. So I think what we'll see now is Gary catching Paul, and the two of them working together to make sure that nobody else can catch up with them. But whether it'll be Paul or Gary, I really have no idea at this point.
You may have seen Gary there almost went the wrong side of that straw bale. I think his mind said yes to the right, and then he suddenly thought, no, I better go left in case I get disqualified for leaving the route. Well, Gary said there wouldn't be too much of tactics on the course, but they played the best one. But then, of course, Gary didn't expect a puncture today either, and to work as hard as this to keep in touch with the leaders. Each time he's got there, he's found somebody who's moved on. So all of the time, Hinton checking out the chase behind. I think it's almost as if Paul Hinton here is expecting to see Gary come up, and here he is.
Yeah, I think he'll be expecting that. But I think once they're secure that they're probably in the first, second position, there's definitely going to be a bit of a personal tussle there. Although these guys are great friends off the circuit, they're not, you know, Paul's certainly not going to give Gary an easy ride into the finish of this race today.
And on the BMX circuit for the last time is Danielle Riley. She's never lost her posture at all. She's just sat there and pedalled, and she's gone well clear of the opposition. And if you look at her face, well, it doesn't give anything away, does it? It looks as though she'd actually enjoyed a day out here in the sunny southeast of England, where the desert-like conditions continue for a third year. Through the zigzags, and then she lines up for the finish, and now she's making her way down towards the line. And she's never had any opposition at all today from the off. Made the long journey from Stockport in Cheshire, well worthwhile. She'll be able to go back tomorrow to work and put the bike back on the rack for sale, winners only on it. She's gone past 1 or 2 men in this race as well today, so she's a very powerful rider. And remember, the men had a minute start on the women just to keep them separate at the beginning, and a little pat on the back there from a very gentlemanly man who's just gone alongside. In fact, that was Russell King from Henley-on-Thames who gave her congratulations as she takes the women's title.
About an hour now, these top guys have been pounding round.
Danielle, well done. You made it look easier, but it wasn't, though.
Not a bit, no. It's really hard. It's hard on the irons out the bomb holes. The hard riding was all right, just coming out the holes. Apart from that, it's all right.
Well done, you deserved it. Let's get back now to Phil and John to see how the men's race finishes.
And it looks as though Hinton's in a little bit of trouble now. Every time Coltman goes through those bomb holes, he stretches his teammate. He may not want to shed him too soon, if indeed he can, but it looks as though Hinton is now finding the increase in pace a little bit heavy going. And just look at this, a nice run at that one. This is the air leap as he comes through and keeps the pressure on those pedals as he wings out of that crater. And now it looks to me as though Gary Coltman is decidedly taking care of his teammate Paul Hinton. So it's about 2.5 laps to go at the moment, 2 when they come through next time. And the field well spread out now. And it looks as though, in fact, we've got Hinton in with the trouble. He must have overshot that. And he went on to the right of the road. So he's going again. But it was Coltman, in fact. That was Gary Coltman who went down.
I thought it was there, Phil. I didn't dare say anything until I could see his face, but I thought for a second that was Gary. But obviously wearing exactly the same kit with exactly the same bikes from behind, it's always difficult to tell which the rider is.
And here's our third rider, Jason McCroy. What an amazing race this is turning out. There's Glenn Coltman. He's in 4th place. Here we are coming back towards the exit from BMX, and the 2 rally boys having a private war of their own. And yet again, Coltman is fighting back. And sure enough, both riders coming back together again. Glenn Coltman, former international cyclocross rider, won his cap for Great Britain.
You can see a little bit of a rip in his jersey there, Phil. Looks like he did take a bit of a tumble earlier on in the race. Yeah, I actually think, John, he must have lost his place with those leaders when he tumbled, and we didn't see him tumble. But he's out of it now. It's a sad thing. One mistake is all you're allowed in this type of racing, unless you've got the legs of Gary Coltman, of course. And then you come charging up. Now, 1 lap to go. 1 lap to go. And the 2 leaders go through, and I must say there's 1 or 2 faces going through the start-finish here. And look at this now. Graham Pentney, who was in the lead here with these boys at the start, is now with them again. The only difference is he's a lap behind. And Gary Coltman just really does not like Graham Pentney riding anywhere near them with his cow horns on. And so he's attacked immediately to get rid of him. And someone else got a problem here with his gears, I think, or his chain is jammed down there. The worst problem is jammed inside his frame, and he's going to have to wrestle with that one, I'm afraid. Now the split is on here, and it's come at the start of the last lap. There he goes, Coltman now going for gold, and what a day out he's had. But now he's going to try and shed himself of Paul, his teammate and friend. But now it's down to the last lap. They're short of 1st and 2nd place. And so, as any team manager would say, you're now free to fight out the result among yourselves. And it looks as though Coltman, surprisingly, is not waiting for a sprint finish. And this is 3rd place, number 12, Jason McCroy. So he deserves this place today. He's rode exceptionally well. Here's the leader now digging deep as he comes out of the white post, heading up now towards the finish. And Coltman will be home and dry in about 30 seconds, if that. Paul Hinton will remain in 2nd place. But this is Coltman now, winding it up for the last time. What a day out he's had in Knebworth. He never expected it would be quite as hard as this to win today, but he's won it well and proved himself to be, without doubt,
the best rider on the course today. A recovery of 2.5 minutes from a flat tyre to victory by what looks to be at least 30 seconds. A superb win, and without doubt the champion of the day, Gary Coltman, showing us all today why he is a professional rider, and in Britain one of the best as well.
Well, here comes Paul Hinton now up the finishing straight, Phil. Only about 15 seconds behind Gary there on the last lap, but it shows how much left Gary had to pull out of Paul there. So first second for Rally, and we'll be waiting to see now.
Looking now for the amateur rider of the race. There's the two professionals. They've given their all today, and they didn't even speak to each other when they sat down there. They're almost like the boxers in opposite corners, don't they?
And so a 1-2 for the rally team there. Gary Coltman, a good winner despite his many setbacks, beating teammate Paul Hinton. Jason McCoy, the amateur, was third, ahead of Glenn Coltman and another amateur, Kevin Burton from Malden, in 5th place.
It took a lot out of me, an awful lot. After about 3 laps I started to blow and had to ease back. Luckily for me, I had a teammate, Paul, you know, my rally teammate, so, and my brother as well, and he's a good teammate as well. He won't see me in trouble too much, so it's a case of they weren't going to ride too hard. Obviously they had to keep riding hard to keep away from the rest of the field, so I was lucky in that respect, but it was still very, very hard.
Well, Paul, you finished second in the end. What about that race?
Well, when I heard that Gary had punctured, obviously it was a team tactic, so we just, me and Glenn, his brother, just set up and waited for him to catch him back. I didn't realise it took quite a while, you know, but we just let Jason do the work, and eventually when Gary got on, we broke away. That was it, you know, he didn't have the strength because he was right at the front all the time.
The two rally lads rode a really good race. They saw my weakness was up the back straight there, and obviously every time I went up there, when I started getting tired, they just broke away and I couldn't cover it. So I was very pleased with the ride, though. I felt strong.
They say that cyclists are some of the fittest men around. Certainly you proved that today.
I think so. I think, you know, we're tough customers, so yeah, we're pretty fit.
And that's just about it, the end of another series. We've had some fun on the way. Hope you've enjoyed it too. We'll be back next week though, minus the wheels, for a special programme on water skiing. Join us then. Good night.